What is up, everybody? This is episode 38 or 39, of Owl Recap, a show focuses on covering the news, matches, and results of Overwatch League. Today, we have a special guest, Death Blow from High Noon Podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I thought I would be a regular guest. I'm excited to be a special guest, though.
It's always a special guest. You're all special to me. Death Blow's been on a podcast marathon today. We're the third podcast you've been doing today.
Yeah, did Foul Play, then did the High Noon podcast, and now doing the Owl recap.
Yeah, all about Overwatch and the Overwatch League. So it's good to have you. I know it's been a long day for you, but we love having your opinion over here, even though it's a little opinionated sometimes, but I'll take it.
I'm not known for shying away from having an opinion. No, that's definitely.
Also joining us today, we have Bob. How you doing, dude?
Hey, I'm doing amazing. Happy to be here and burning blue.
Oh, yeah, it's burning blue this week. Absolutely. Unfortunately, Mel is not with us today. She has to be out on some business. But it's just the guys out today. It's guys' night. All right, guys. We don't have a lot of news going on today, but we do have a lot of amazing results that just happened last week. So I just want to dive straight into that, get the conversation started because, woo, what a week. Let's get right into the thick of things, guys. Dallas Fuel has become alive. They're showing signs of life. Not only life, they are surprising everyone that they've been playing against. Boston Uprising and Philadelphia Fusion have both succumbed to Dallas Fuel. This is super amazing. Bob, I'm sure that
Yep.
you were screaming at your TV. What do you think, dude?
Losing my mind, and not just like beaten, like they have dumpstered those two teams.
Yes.
And Fusion was looking good to start the season. Many argued that they were looking like one of the best. So I don't know. Like you have to temper your expectations, but what this does tell me is that the new coaching staff is actually getting things done. They are laying things out in a way that the players can things that they could do. Like they're not getting confused. Like they have good strategies. Like on the one map, Hanamura, like Fusion sat up there with Orisa and sat up there and had a real great little defensive spot, but they just come in with Brigitte, Diva, Lucio. They just speed right to the point, and then they force them to come in with their anchor D and actually take the point from them. And then you get close to Mickey, and he just deletes people. So it seems like coaching has been the biggest change, and Taimu is hot once again, which is always a good thing. When T's hot, like he's one of the best in the league, or at least we're seeing that now. We didn't know because he's like the way he's played in the past. He goes hot, he goes cold. But like
That's
we
what
haven't
he's kinda
seen
known
him,
for.
yeah, we haven't seen him hot in the Overwatch League, and right now he looks to be one of the best at the moment. So I was
Yeah, when
loving
he's
it.
in a role, he's definitely a beast. What do you think, Deathblow? What happened to this team?
Well, I do want to correct Bob on one thing. If there's anything Taimu's best known for, it's having good aim. In the immortal words of his former teammate, as his parting words for the team. But yeah, they've been really, really well situated in the meta. You know, there's been a few teams in particular that seem to really have a plan and a strategy for how to attack the new meta game. And Dallas was definitely one of them. You know, they're I think at the top of the league as far as Brigitte hours played or time
They are
played is concerned.
75% as opposed to
Yeah.
anyone else close, which is at about 25.
Yeah, and I think they're more correct than even those other teams that were also had a plan. You know, you look at what Houston did; they were one of the teams that clearly had a plan going into this stage and into this meta, and they fell flat this past week. And you know, you look at some of the other ones. Philly was on that list, right? And they definitely fell to Dallas. And I think that's something we're going to continue to see, is we're going to continue to see teams surprisingly lose to them until the rest of the league catches up to what they're doing as far compositionally. And then I think we will see them kind of fall back a little bit. But that's not to say that it's, that's just a credit to them, right? That people, I think, are going to start to copy them. It just says that, they did a really good job. And credit to the coaching staff for giving the teams, or the players, I should say, the room and the opportunity to succeed. That's something that a lot of coaching staffs have struggled with, is putting players in a position to succeed and be successful. And that's something that right now Dallas is clearly doing, because it's working great for them. I think 3-1 on the stage, and Philly was one of the teams I had penciled in for the stage playoffs, and now I think after that convincing victory there, you have to put Dallas in that spot. It's exciting to get to talk about them like that.
So I'm curious what you think about this, because I don't know a ton about the Contenders scene, but did Contenders have Brigitte?
It did not, and through the finals there, but we are getting the Beat Invitational going on. I think right now, at least it was when I started my podcasting marathon for the day. It was ongoing, and that is played on the live patch. So, and it's on live servers. That's a throwback to the old days of Overwatch esports. So we will have some hours there with her to really kind of factor that in.
See, the reason that I wondered was just because was just because I thought maybe Arrow had like a little insight into Brigitte play and all that, because they just seem to be coming out and being the only ones doing it right, air quotes right. And it's what you've preached to us in our actual 6-man team, Podcasters United. You've preached to us how good she was when everyone else that still loved Dive was still trying to fight her off. So I just wondered how Arrow had that insight, but
well, one thing I can tell you as far as that's concerned is they might not have been playing on it in the event, right? But when they went to finals, they had access to the LAN client, but their scrim hours, they didn't have access to the LAN client. So I think Contenders teams are a little bit more well-equipped as far as looking at live patch results, because they're forced to use it more often than the Overwatch League teams, who have constant access to the LAN client and can scrim on it from their practice facilities and things like that. So it's definitely possible, but maybe not as much, because his team was definitely still worried about the old meta, even if they weren't able to scrim on that patch. Fusion University knew full well they were going the distance there, and they were going to the LAN. So maybe less so than some of the others Contenders coaches had, but a lot of their scrim opponents, like, you're not going to scrim against the other teams in the playoffs. You're going to scrim against the teams that didn't make it. So maybe they were given more exposure to that strategy from those scrims. Certainly possible.
And another thing you have to think about is, and I know he's on your team now, but Kai, how much does this bring his worth down now after he said, he said on Oversight in chat, Thorin's show, Thorin and Monty, he said, "Show me who can fix Dallas, the Dallas Fuel," and something like, "I'll quit coaching," or something like that. But like, how bad's he got to feel at this point?
I think that Kai is just in a weird spot right now. It's unfortunate that it didn't work out with him. It might have been because of a big amount of reasons, not just he was bad at coaching. He could have been not the best fit. He could have been not what they needed. They also had a lot of problems at the time that were not necessarily his fault, but I can see why to the public it looks bad that he leaves Dallas immediately turns it around, and then he goes to Houston, and Houston
without effect. Without effect.
Without effect.
They have now won. I mean, they won 2 games without him at the last week of stage 1, and then I think they only won 4 games with him. So now 3 more wins. Now they've won more games throughout the season without him than with him.
I personally hold a bit of a minority opinion on effect, and I think this will help people kind of come around to that opinion as well. So maybe it's not necessarily the minority opinion anymore. I don't think effect is somebody that's fit to play in Overwatch League. If I had control of a team, if I was a GM for a team, I wouldn't sign him if he was a free agent. I wouldn't. I think it's addition by subtraction to lose him. You look back to the incident he had on stage where his team all goes back to the locker room at halftime, and he physically and visually and in every sense of the word, separated himself from the entire rest of the team, stayed on the stage, and just did mechanical warm-up stuff. There's computers in the back room. You don't have to make a public spectacle of separating yourself from the team. I think he causes more problems than his admittedly very high mechanical skill really solves for a team. So I think it's fine not to have him. He's probably mechanically one of the best players on the team, but that you need more than that as an Overwatch player. It's not all about mechanics. So
No, I'm
and
glad
as
that
far
you
as
said that.
go ahead, Andrew. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I'm glad that you said that because I was gonna say that maybe speaks more for Effect as a player than
Mhm.
Kai as a coach, if anything. Because I think you're right. I think that even though Effect can bring a huge skill ceiling on Tracer, he just doesn't fit with the team personality wise. And if you just don't fit with the team, if the team doesn't trust you and you don't trust the team, it's just not gonna work out. You're gonna be doing your own plan. They're gonna be doing their own plan, and it's just gonna feel disjointed, disconnected, and that's how Dallas felt all of stage one until this moment, basically, or stage one, stage two, stage three. Um, Finally we're seeing some sense of life. And one thing I will say is Seagull and Mickey are bringing right now a lot of things to the table. I think that the whole roster is very solid, but the first few days of stage four, we saw Mickey pull out the Brigitte against Shanghai Dragons. A lot of people were quick to dismiss it and said, well, he's playing it against Shanghai Dragons, so we need to see a little more. But this week, we actually see him go up against EQO, against Shadowburn, and
Dude,
against
and
Boston Uprising, which is known to be the dive team. And he makes the Brigitte work really
well,
well. He counters that Genji dive every time.
he does so much interesting. Okay, so first off, he's the quickest that I've seen with the stun whip shift. What's it called? Combo.
Yeah, the one
The
shot combo.
whiplash
Yeah,
or
like he is the fastest that I've seen with it at animation cancellation. I assume others are going to get just as good pretty quickly, but he's the fastest I've seen. He gets environmental kills off of it quite often, and it's something he used on King's Row, which I thought was just genius. Was he used the third person view to see better. Okay, so on that second choke, when they're coming around, they're about to, they have to go 15 meters to cap point.
Mhm.
He's right on that wall a few times where he uses the third person so that he could see Ryan coming in. Then he
Mhm.
comes in, stuns. That huge team kill was him coming in. OGE went for the hammer down. Then Mickey stuns. So the hammer down hits right underneath the cart, right as the stun hits Rhine. Boom, hammers down 5 of them. They team kill. I mean, it was just like their execution is
Very
awesome, right?
coordinated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right now.
you can definitely tell that Mickey and OG have been practicing together, because they are working really, really well. I like that you mentioned that little trick. I call it the PUBG trick because you swap into third person view, so you can technically look around
Mhm.
corners very
Yep.
easily without showing your body, unlike when you're in first person. So it's very easy for you to hide around a corner, wait for them to come in. And I like that you also mentioned that OG ults first. Mickey is just there waiting for the audio cue from OGE. He's waiting to hear the audio cue from Reinhardt
Yep. Yep.
raising his hammer, and only then is when he goes in for the stun. So it's definitely very coordinated. It's in a matter of milliseconds that they do it. I'm sure that other teams will learn to do this too, because Mickey is winning the Reinhardt duel for OGE almost every fight, because that in King's Row, it happens several times. It wasn't just
Yeah, it
that one
makes
time.
and it happens throughout all of the maps.
He does it with Seagull as well. Seagull will throw the Diva bomb into the enemy team, and here comes Mickey, stuns the shield out of Reinhardt, and
Yep.
gets
You're
two
exactly
or three
right.
kills right off the bat.
And
So
half of
he
the
uses the stun
times
really well.
Like half of the times, the casters didn't even notice that. They're like, "Oh my God, Siegel gets another one," but it's like
No,
Mickey
it's
made that
Mickey
happen,
got
you
that one.
know.
Yeah, Mickey got that one for Siegel. It is happening a lot. So definitely Mickey a big part of why they're succeeding a lot. I haven't seen any other teams use Brigitte like they've been using it, and it's worth mentioning that I really like the way that they how they bring out Brigitte. They're not just running with her on their regular comp. In fact, they're usually running a 2-2 or a very standard composition, but the second the enemy team goes dive, you can bet that Mickey goes Brigitte in like the next like 10 seconds. They
Well,
switch so fast.
and they're oftentimes using dive, like exactly dive as it used to be with Widow and Tracer, but instead of Tracer, they're having a Brigitte. So they're still having Monkey, Diva, still having Zen, Mercy, but they're just flopping that
Yeah.
Tracer for a. And I mean, this is something that I really think Houston should jump on
Yeah.
board with quick because I think they would be really good at it too.
Yeah, and
The
you guys were talking about with Mickey too, his mechanical skill. Even like there's the one play against Boston. I think it's on Oasis there. He literally jumps on top of Kalios and Diva, right? So he like jumps on top of a Diva mech, and then like shield bashes off of it and cancels mistakes high noon while he's in the middle of it, like he's casting Deadeye, and he hops over him and cancels it as well. And like even in week one, I was learning how to use Brigitte correctly. Because I was watching Dallas play with it. I was talking to Kinder on the podcasters team about it, and Dallas really taught me that you do stack the Brigitte alt with the Zenyatta's Transcendence when you want to get maximum value in a team fight from it. Because people aren't firing all their cooldowns into a Transcendence, right? It's not going to do anything. So the armor has a better chance to actually accumulate. Also, everybody's at full HP, so you're getting the most value from it. Like they've been really from the get go playing it better and kind of showing everybody how to do it. And I agree 100% with Bob. But it's not even Houston in particular. The results here speak for themselves. The league should be copying what Dallas is doing. There's no one team in particular that. I mean, Houston obviously stands to reason they're having the biggest swings at the moment. So it would really help stabilize them. But they've got a matchup against this team next week. Do you want to be adapting to their mirror comp the week you're playing them, or do you want to get some practice on it a week beforehand? Because I think at the end of the day, they're all going to get there anyways.
they're definitely figuring out the meta a little sooner than some of the other teams, and they're showing that it works because the other teams haven't been able to break it down. One last thing I will say that Dallas has going on for themselves is that their off tank player is the one that can swap off to the Brigitte. And then you have one of the DPS players, in this case, Siegel, who's going into an off tank role a lot of the time, which is not a flexibility that a lot of teams have. Having your DPS go off tank and your off tank go support into Brigitte is something that I haven't seen other teams do. Like so normally, like Houston, for example, they put Jake on the Brigitte, which is their DPS. Um, and Siegel has been killing it on that Diva. He's been swapping from Hanzo to Diva. We even saw him pull out a Genji a couple of times. I don't think he was super successful with it, but even so, just the flexibility that that guy has and allowing Mickey to play the Brigitte, which plays a very similar role to the off tank. I don't know. I think that it's working out really well for them.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's optimal, like, because then you're kind of like making two swaps. So if it works out that your DPS player is your best Brigitte player, then it's probably better to do that. But I just think it's important and something good that they've done, that they recognize that she's an important enough hero that you find whoever's best at it and then shape the team around that. When you have these deep rosters, you have that luxury where, the average contenders team or your average whatever team like us that just has 6 people, we don't have that luxury. So
And it
Yeah.
just seems like they're more prepared. I really want to go back to that too, because it really does. Like that Hanamura with just watching Fusion be like, "Oh, what do we do? What do we do?
No,
What
yeah.
do we do? We have
They got
Orisa. How do we
destroyed.
get in on him?" It's crazy.
Now, the thing about that win, specifically in Hanamura against Fusion, it was that it wasn't even fair. Dallas literally blew through their defenses and then full stopped them. It was like, we are not letting you do anything. They made EQO look like a a ladder random. You know what I mean? Like he didn't look impressive at all. It was amazing, and like I don't think that you can just do that to Philly Fusion. I don't think it was like they were having an off day. No, Dallas was playing really well and was playing a game that Philly Fusion couldn't crack.
They forced
One more
Shadowburn back
thing.
out there.
Yeah, no. One more thing you do have to take note of is Dallas was a little lucky this week. They got to play the very first game of the week and the very last. So they
Mhm.
got all kinds of preparation for both teams that they played. So they won't have that luxury going forward every week. So that was a huge luxury, especially in the second week of a vastly changed meta.
Yeah. And we'll see how it goes into the next couple of weeks. I think that other teams, after seeing this week, are going to take what Dallas is doing very seriously. And at least they're going to go back and analyze to see what it is that they're doing right, how they're utilizing the brigade. So, coming up the next few weeks, things might change. If anything that the league has taught us is that from week to week, things can change drastically. I mean, just look at this week. Dallas was the one of the worst teams in the league last week, and now they're looking pretty good.
Houston looked
Um,
untouchable.
yeah, Houston looked untouchable. Not anymore. We can jump into that next, but I'm really happy for Dallas, man. That team could really use some wins. I think that they're all feeling really good. I want Taimo to get his confidence back, which it seems like he is, and it shows. He's killing it. He's getting those shots on the window that we all want to watch. And just the team in general seems to have a whole different spirit. They seem to be very positive, which didn't look like it for a long time. That they were having a hard time. So I'm happy for them, and I hope that it keeps being an upward trend. I know they have a lot of fans that would appreciate it too. Let's talk about Houston Outlaws because, like you said, Deathblow, Houston started out really good the week before, but last week we saw a very different Houston. Their first match against Los Angeles Gladiators. Gladiators takes it 3-1. And again, Gladiators have been looking really good this stage. We've talked about them before in the show, saying how they're a very versatile team. Another one of those teams that has adapted fairly fast to the new meta, and they're not afraid to bring out the Brigitte and try other compositions here and there. What do you think, Deathblow?
So going into the Houston versus Gladiators match, this was to me basically the battle for the number 2 spot in my power rankings, or for who my favorites were in the stage overall. These are two teams that you don't put anybody above New York, but they seem to handle the meta better. They seem to have a plan, like I said previously. And as the match played out, it didn't go in a crazy way here, right? And I thought Houston played very well in this match. They didn't disappoint me as a fan. Just the outcome wasn't what I wanted. They go out and they won Kings Row handily. Okay, so they used Spree like they were using in the first week, and everything was going. Then they go to Hanamura. They go out there on attack, and they just try to run dive comp, and I don't get that. I don't get why that's your plan or your strategy. You're the team that's supposed to be good because dive is gone, because Tracer's not in the meta. You don't have a top tier Tracer player that can compete with the best DPS players in this league who've been maining it since before the game came out and closed beta, stuff like that. They don't have that tool in their kit. So why they tried to use it, I don't understand. And they literally never switch off of it the entire time. Surefour is just popping off, clicking heads. He was going crazy. And I don't even fault Jake incredibly for this, right? Like this was a comp designed to beat dive. Okay, they're not a team that's equipped to play dive very well. And Surefour was popping off. Like, it's not the Tracer's fault if he dies immediately after he blinks, right? He comes out of blink and instantly gets headshot. That's just the Tracer's or the Widow's playing out of his mind. And that's what was happening to him in a lot of those pushes. So, but the fact that they didn't switch didn't make any sense. I thought they should have tried the Junkrat, bash the shield down, push him off the high ground, do something different. Because Linkser didn't have room to go. And then they go into Oasis. That map was never going to be in Houston's favor. That is a very good map for the Gladiators, one of the worst Koth maps for Houston. So that one was fine. And then Dorado was a very closely contested, second point hold, similar to what we saw in the stage finals between London and New York. Both teams were, in stage one when they were playing really well. Sometimes that in an anti-dive meta, that one just sometimes gets held up at point 2. I didn't think they really disappointed there either. But I don't think anybody told them that losing this match wasn't going to cost them the entire season and knock them out of the playoffs, because they never came out of the locker room against San Francisco. They didn't show up. They just got dismantled by an inferior team, at least compared to the Gladiators, who they competed with fine. And that was the frustrating part. Is like it was just a mental thing to me. They just had a block. They didn't play. But yeah, they were fine against the Gladiators. I had no issues there. I still thought they were gonna make the playoffs, but now the swings at the end of the season when you're on the outside looking in, every loss means everything, and that one hurt.
Well,
They're still not out of it. So
why even? I don't even know why you would even play Jake on Tracer in this meta. Like, what's the point? Like, I can understand wanting to push Sabiobi out there, striker, or somebody who's just a monster on it, but the Jake Tracer plays, I do not understand at all. It makes no sense to me.
So maybe they're trying to keep things unpredictable or trying to keep themselves from not being, I don't know, like keep themselves moving or something, keep the strategy evolving. Maybe that's what they're trying to go for. Maybe they feel more confident in their dive and they feel they can play a play style that might make it work. To be honest, there's not a lot of teams that are pulling like the Brigitte against them. So you can't blame them for like trying to explore that route. But again, like you guys said, they've never been a team with a strong dive. So again, putting a little doubt into that. I will say though, Houston has had this ruts a couple of times this season already, where they look like a team that's plays very well together. They're very coordinated. The team looks like they have a lot of chemistry with each other, but I don't know if it's maybe they spend too much time together or they're maybe practicing too hard or maybe they go into the streaks of like we're getting it, everyone feels good, and then they burn out really fast out of those because it's happened a couple of times where you can just see the team like you said against the match against San Francisco. They just look like they're not there, right? Like maybe they partied too hard the night before or something. I doubt that that was it, but
right.
that's kind of like how it looks like they're coming out to play.
You could maybe make
That's
that
what happens when
argument
it's college
against.
football.
Yeah, you could
Yeah,
maybe
like
make that argument
hungovers or
against
something.
Fusion. You could make that argument,
Yeah,
but
so that's what I'm saying. I don't think like
Houston
they're
does.
partying
I
or
mean,
anything, but that's how it feels like.
one thing that's changed this stage is Houston has a new coach.
I, but he
It's
has no
Just
power. If you're
saying.
talking about
I'm
Kai, if
just
you're talking about
saying.
Kai Kai,
yeah.
I'm
he's
just
more
saying
of
he's
a
bad freaking
facilitator.
luck, man. He's bad luck.
I mean, if it's anything having to do with Kai Kai, the man would have to just be cursed because I don't think he's got like I don't think he's
Yeah,
got
no,
the
I
power,
think
but,
I think I think he's a smart guy. I think he definitely hurt himself by never taking any credit for any of Dallas's woes and basically always pointing fingers at someone else. But I do think he knows his stuff.
yeah, and much like players, I mean, not to go back to Kai Kai too much, but like I never thought he was really like we talked about with the players putting them in a situation to succeed, and I don't think he was ever put in a situation to succeed. Like there's a reason no matter how successful you are in coaching in real sports, you don't ever last too long. Like there's always a finite amount of time you can stay with a team because players only want to hear the same monikers over and over again, and you run out of it, and they've heard it before, and it doesn't inspire them anymore, and it doesn't pique their interest anymore. So
Yeah, they call that.
He's
I was just
go
gonna
ahead.
say they call that losing the locker room.
Yeah. So I think he could have just lost the locker room, but also I think Castro was just too hands-on, learned his lesson, and let Arrow come in and dictate things a little bit more than Kai Kai ever had a chance
It's
to.
it's very possible. It's very possible.
During the team, but
Yeah, I don't blame this on Kai Kai at
yeah.
all. It's fun to poke fun at him. I don't
Right.
think he does, but
But
no,
you're,
this
you're
is on Houston.
yeah, your point, Andres, too, about it's happened before. The last stage, the last week, they came out and had favorable matchups against both Seoul, who was that was the week they debuted Jae Hong on main tank.
Which is a
Got
team
taken.
they've beaten several times already.
Yeah. And also against the San Francisco Shock, who now they're 3-1 against on the stage or on the season, I should say. And when you look at just the records compared, I mean, they're not super far apart, but they're definitely like at a tier break, right? At least how it looks now. That'll probably close by the end of the stage with how San Fran's playing. But there's also something to be said. I think San Francisco just playing the spoiler role. Like Dallas and San Francisco have this advantage of we don't care. When you have nothing to lose, you are the most dangerous team on the stage. And when you have every reason to win, it's very hard to beat a team with no reason to care about.
Right.
It's
One
very
team
true.
is coming in with no pressure on their shoulders. The other one is coming in with all the pressure.
Yeah.
Yep, and I mean, I can't believe Shanghai hasn't taken advantage of that at least once because everybody's nervous when they go up against them. They do not want to
Well,
be the one to break that streak.
Right.
let's talk about Shanghai because I think we kind of summarize Houston pretty good here. Shanghai Dragons at this point is becoming an esports anomaly. It's statistically rare to
Sports
have a
and
team
sports
with
anomaly.
this record. Yeah, this has been actually circulating around social media how like their record is actually becoming like, are they actively trying to lose at this point? And obviously not, but th- that's what the record basically says is statistically unlikely for a team to never even have one single win against one team. So at this point is this starts to raise a lot of questions about the team. Is the team getting overworked to the point where their progress isn't even noticeable? Um, have maybe the team, this is one of the only teams which has actually drawn the talent exclusively from their region, aside from maybe Seoul Dynasty. But most of the other teams have handpicked, cherry picked their talent from different parts and basically brought in the best of the best. Maybe Mayhem, you can throw it in that boat as well. But is it maybe that the people that they picked are not really measuring up to the spot? There's a lot of speculation that when the team was formed, some friends of the coach or here and other people were the ones who made it into the team, and maybe they were not the most selected. This is just like things that I've been reading here and there. But do we need to improve the team from the bottom up? Is this team just not measuring up to the Owl standards, or is it just they're badly coached, or is it that they need more time to improve and work on the strategy? Because at this point, it's just not looking very good.
I'll let Deathblow take it.
Sure. So to put a cap on what you said initially, Andres, they if you count Overwatch League as a major U.S. sports league, they are the official record holders for the longest losing streak in professional sports. It 0-28 was the previous record, so that's in the rear view now, and they're just adding to the record book now. But yeah, region locking, go figure, not a positive, right? It's just handicapping yourself and hurting yourself. And they did recognize that, and that's why you see Fearless and Ado and Gaguri and Sky all come in from the Korean scene to kind of supplement the Chinese talent that they had. But going into it, everybody really thought Miraculous Youngsters was the best Overwatch team in China, and not too many people thought that the Shanghai Dragons pulled the best six players out of their
Mhm.
own scene.
That's kind of what I've been hearing.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that as well now. There is a reason why the Miraculous Youngsters are called the Miraculous Youngsters, and that's many of them weren't 18 years old yet, but there were a few that they could have gotten. I think that would have put them in a better spot. Notably, their support play has been bad, really bad. They signed 3 Lucio mains. That's it. That's what they brought into Overwatch League for support. So now we're looking at metas that don't include Lucio really at all. We're looking at Zenyatta Mercy pretty consistently. Even when it's triple support, it's not really him. The only time you see Lucio is a little bit on King of the Hill
A
or
little
control
bit on
maps, and
Koth, or
then
a little bit on 2CP too.
yeah, and then
First point.
supplemented sometimes by the Moira strategy, where he gets run with Moira, and you just burst all the tanks and speed them onto the point and make them push you off of it while you heal incredible amounts. So, it's just they had controversy with their coaching staff early on, like promising roster spots to underage players and things like that. I think they're just hands down the worst run of the franchises is from a management perspective, and I
Mhm.
think they gave the jobs to the wrong people to get going. The general manager, the coaches, they were poorly selected, and I think as a result, you got an inferior roster. And now, like I think they lost their coach again in stage 4. He was sick. He had to go
I
back to
wouldn't doubt
China.
it.
It's just it's a mess. They're a complete mess, and there's no reason to expect it to
Because
get better. It's a complete rebuild.
at this point you can't argue with it, like they're just outclassed. It
Mhm.
almost seems like they're playing on a contenders level in the Owl against all these pro teams, and like it's just like, you're bringing a guy from the minor leagues to play in the big leagues and just kind of throwing him in there. That's kind of like how it feels. Like there's just kind of like no chance for them.
There's plenty of contenders teams that would beat them handily, and I think I think I talked about it way back in stage one on this show, and I thought the biggest problem was workload. They actually put out how much they worked, and they were doing 16-hour days, and they're like, "Oh, but we give ample breaks." No, you don't give ample breaks. An ample break is after an 8 to 10 hour work day. You get at least 6 hours to yourself to do whatever you want. Like that, I think the biggest problem. I think like we see Fusion has had a lot of luck and a lot of disluck, but a lot more luck than not. And they let their players do what they want to do in their off time. They let them let loose. They let them have a good time. And I think that's the biggest problem with Shanghai is they lost. The coach really freaked out. He put out a tweet like the first week. Like he put out a tweet about how he felt horrible about it, blah blah blah, and then they were going to try even harder. But working hard, it's just like we've talked about plenty of times. There's good practice, and then there's bad practice. And I know from just scheduling people at work, like if you work someone over 10 hours, you get no productivity after that at all mentally. Now, physical work, you can actually get a lot more because you're watching them, they're getting it done, but mentally you check out. So I think it was their practice regimen. And I also think a lot of pressure's on Gig Guri. And it shouldn't be. Like, she was not the savior to come in. Like, if you have a savior coming in, it's normally a DPS or a really good Reinhardt, Monkey, and Fisher. But I think they put a lot of pressure on her, and I think she's very streaky. And she did play a really good Brigitte though this past week. That was kind of cool to see. But
She's been good, but she jumped on a sinking ship and it sank. She just
yeah,
wasn't able to save it. It's not a bad thing to her. It's just what happened.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Nobody's gonna blame her for Shanghai Dragons. They were already the worst team in the league before she came over. But yeah, I think that'll sum it up. Shanghai Dragons, I think that they need some help, man. Maybe even some of the other teams, some of the other coaches, just at least once the season ends, they might want to sit down with Shanghai Dragons because it's also not good business for the league in general, right? You don't want to have a team that is so far behind from everyone else. You want most of your teams to be are on the same competitive level. So I'm sure that the league itself might be looking at Shanghai Dragons right now, being like, okay, how can we help this team? Can we lend a hand with some of the inside workings? Because some of the other teams, like their organization and their administration, looks top notch from the bottom up. So
Well,
hoping for the best.
Fusion actually has cooks and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
the Fusion players literally have to do nothing, and then London has Susie, who does all the laundry and everything else. So I love how the GM does the laundry. That is a special thing.
That's how
That
startups
really
work.
shows
Everybody's
commitment.
all in.
Yep, that's very true. I've worked for one IT startup, and that is the truth.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about the Boston Uprising. One of the teams that had one of the best finishes the last stage, yet has had one of the worst stages so far. This one. Boston Uprising really lost their mojo, man. They were the dive team. They really had it together. They had figured out the past meta really well. Every team said that they had a very creative dive style. They really hated going up against them because they were really unpredictable, and they were the tank line worked was really different from everyone else's. But this stage, I feel like they've been trying to make that same plan work, that same dive team, and it's just not working anymore, man. Things have evolved, and teams have been able to counter them pretty hard. We talked about it last week with hexagrams as well. It definitely shows that mistakes, even though he's a good player, he is not that star player. He's no Fleta. He's no Linkser. He's definitely not a striker, and he's being put on the roles that are the most demanding. He has to play that Widowmaker. He has to play. Um, what else
Well,
is he playing?
I
Genji,
mean,
McCree.
McCree.
Striker's been playing a lot of Widowmaker over mistakes, which has been a little weird too.
Because again, for Striker, one of the best tracers in the league, now he can't really get away with just tracing in every map. Now against Dallas Field, for example, it was like, no man, you can't do what you're used to doing. This team is going to counter you really hard, and you're definitely not adapting to what they're being able to do. And there you go, 3-0 against Dallas Field.
Well, I mean, I think if I wanted to fix them right now, I say you do what Dallas has been doing on certain maps. You go dive with Widow and you throw Striker on Brigitte. Striker's got mechanics. He's going to be able to play her well. He just has to put a few hours in, and I mean, she's not a hard character to play. So,
Okay, but here's the only thing I will say to that. I think that Brigitte is an amazing hero. She's an amazing counter and offers a lot of tools for your team, but she's not a carry hero. She's not a hero like Tracer that, can get 4 or 5 kills by herself. She can
true,
neutralize
true.
the main target that you need to get neutralized, and he can stop a lot of styles. But she's not like Widowmaker caliber either, where like you come in there, get 4 picks, and you won the fight for your team by yourself, kind of thing.
Oh no,
She's not a
Striker was never really though that type of tracer. He was just on and he was steady. He was the most reliable tracer in the league. I mean, if you're talking about playmaking tracer, that's Sabiobi. But that's I mean
Fair enough.
that's what I see. What do you like? What do you think, Deep Deathblow?
I mean, I like a lot of what you're saying. There's not a lot of hope for mistakes. He's playing out of his depth a little bit and out of his role a lot of times as well. Also, sometimes Mickey's literally riding his diva to cancel his ultimates and like things like that.
Hmm.
So there's things going on where his team's not helping him and things like that. But I like what Bob said too. Put maybe listen. Are you gonna tell me a guy named Aim God can only play Zenyatta? There's not one DPS player in that man's pool. So now maybe you bring Neko back into the lineup, right? You put one of your 3 support players that you're playing onto that flexible maybe DPS, but most of the time Brigitte, because she's not a carry character where she's not going to kill the whole team. But she is really, really valuable, I think, in almost all instances of the game. If you're Death Ball versus Death Ball, you obviously have the ability to drop Reinhardt shields to hit your shatters, things like that. If it's dive, you just are there as a hard counter to the best dive DPS hero in the game. Also, the tanks to a lesser extent. So I do think you can get away with Brigitte just about everywhere right now, especially the patch they're on with 150 armor with the shorter cooldown on the shield badge. Like she is pretty busted on
Yeah,
that patch, and there's very few reasons and places I don't think they should be playing her. So
and
I agree with that, but as long as it's a dive or as long as it's not a dive meta, Boston won't be a good team. They've literally never played the death ball well, and we've never seen it. They were brutally bad at it back in stage 1 when death ball was around a little bit. It's always been their weakness. So, and they lost their coach Krusty to San Francisco. Like, there's a lot of reasons Boston's in trouble right now. It's not all on the players or any one particular person. The odds are really stacked against them.
yeah, and then once they show they can play Brigitte, it opens other things up for them. And if a team comes at them with dive, then they know exactly what they need to do. The only problem is that if they don't have striker in, they can't really flop back to that dive super easy. So that was why I was thinking maybe striker does Brigitte.
And who knows? Things might evolve. Dive might come back again, some shape or form, some evolved play style. Because Overwatch is ever evolving. As soon as they figure out this is the Brigade stuff, and that becomes the norm, then people start working around that, and keep things moving. So you Tracer and Genji might will probably come back in some shape or form in certain maps. We've seen it in the Overwatch League actually right now. You see some Genjis and Tracers on certain points because they are heroes that can get certain things done very easily and very fast that other heroes can't. You just can get to places that other heroes have a hard time getting to with these heroes very easily. So I don't know. I think there's still a time and place, but right now it is not the time for Tracer. I think that definitely Dallas Fuel especially has figured out how to work against these kind of compositions, and teams like Boston Uprising are feeling the results of that. This is a team that is really gonna have to work on their strategy from the inside out. I think they're gonna have to revamp a lot of things because it's just not working out for them. Alrighty,
Boston's
guys.
in danger of missing the season playoffs too. From second
It's
place to maybe out is very
very
possible.
high danger. Yeah, so they really need to work on it fast. Let's talk about a team who doesn't have to work on their strategy inside out because no matter what the other teams try to do against them, they always seem to have the upper hand, and that is New York Excelsior. Excelsior is an interesting outlier. Like this team just has so much talent within itself, and players like Jonak are such a force to be reckoned with that I'm really interested to see what what teams that have evolved from the meta, like Dallas Fuel, could even do against them. Is this change of meta even gonna affect them? Can they just power through with the power of Jonak and Sabiobi? Have we seen them evolve too much in this meta, or do you guys think they're sticking with what they've always been playing?
Well, before we go on, I'm going to need you to tell the audience what you yell and do it in the same tone that you yell it. What you yell every time you kill somebody when you're playing Zenyatta.
Jonak!
Yep, that's it. That's it.
That's why we don't let him play Zenyatta anymore. Uh,
They banned me of Zenyatta after 2 days of playing it.
but yeah, I mean, New York is hands down the gold standard of the Overwatch League. They're the best team here, and it's not particularly close. We were looking at teams that have had single stages where they've lost at least 3 games or less, considering that's the mark New York's at on the season, and it's like 4 teams can even boast that in a single stage that number of losses. So it's really remarkable what they've been able to do. They have shown a little bit of ability to adapt, but they're not going to anymore. They're going to be very stubborn. They're going to roll out very base compositions. They're locked in first place. They are seed locked in first, can't possibly drop out of it no matter what happens. If they lose every map from here on out, the worst case scenario happens, like they're in first place. So they have no incentive to show anybody anything. They have no incentive to win their matches. There's nothing left for New York to do. You're going to see a lot of pine, and they're just going to be goofing around, and they're going to be having fun. If they do play anything off meta, it's not going to be a serious strategy. It's going to be because they felt like playing this hero, and it's going to work for them way more often than it's not, to be honest with you, because they are just that much better. What Jonak is able to do for that team, there's no other position, hero, anything where the gap between the best and the second best is anywhere near as pronounced or as large of a gap. And until the Zenyatta players catch up, and it's like they have a seventh man. He's a DPS player in a way that no other Zenyatta is, and he's just as good at healing and doing all that stuff as every other Zenyatta is in the league. So they're just a cut above, and it's in large part because they have Jonak. They also have the best tracer in the world, but that doesn't help them now, and they're still just fine. So
Yeah, and to like go right on top of what Deathblow's talking about is they're gonna be lax. Like they were lax, throughout stage 3, and then you saw them come out in the finals and just destroy teams. It wasn't even close. So I think they're gonna hold everything close to their chest. They've already they secured $300,000 as the number one team as far as record goes. They've only been beaten 3 times. Isn't that crazy?
yeah, once per stage.
Yeah,
That is
3
fairly
times.
crazy.
Like,
Quickly becoming the most profitable team in the league just by sheer wins.
yeah, like Shanghai hasn't even gotten 1 win, and they've only lost 3 times. It's, yeah,
I think it's going to be.
I think Deathblow hit the nail on the head. Like I don't have anything to add. I would just say ditto.
We did this on High Noon today just to put it in perspective a little bit. Like if I had to guess, we won't see a season like this or a season this dominant from anybody in Overwatch League again for I'd say until like season 4, season 5 maybe. The gap will close here a little bit, but as long as it all depends how active is free agency, stuff like that. They might be able to repeat next year as a similarly dominant team, but this I think will historically go down as one of the best overall seasons for any team throughout history.
Yeah, and it's expected, right? This was the first season, so
Somebody was going to do a better job.
Well, it was expected
there was a
that
lot of
the
trial and
dynasty
error,
was going to do
basically.
it. Is what it was expected.
Yeah,
not New York, but
yeah. Seoul and London were much more popular picks to win it at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. New York is doing really great. What a team. Just showing that mechanical skill and coordination, trusting your teammates, and having good coaching can really put you up there. And almost make you impervious to the meta. You just play your own meta and make everyone else adapt to you because you're just that good, you know?
speaking of Seoul, you know who owns the new AKM Genji Blade meme?
Fleta.
Fleta.
I heard about
3
that. Well,
minutes and
let's
like 20 seconds or something like that.
I heard about that. Some people on Reddit were like, "Oh, do we now call one AKM one Fleta?" And some people were like, "No, no, no. It's one AKM forever. Now it's one AKM plus like 30 seconds or
And
something like
I
Well,
that."
love how
you have to
AKM answers the
convert it.
post. AKM answers the post with "Welcome to the club." AKM is
Oh
so
yeah.
awesome at how he embraces the
uh,
like. You don't fight the meme. You don't get mad about it. You embrace it like that man has, and that's why he's my
you
AKM.
know, he should have some lunch with Kai Kai and teach him some stuff.
Yes, he
He'll
should.
be more
A
popular
little
with the community.
humility would be a little something that Kai Kai could use.
And
But
they're
let's talk.
they're separate units of measure here, by the way. You have to convert them. So like one AKM blade is only 0.89 Fleta blades. Like they're separate. You know, it's not one or the other.
Oh
We can
man,
have both memes.
I'm gonna need a chart to be able to start doing
Right.
the
Yeah. It's a
conversion.
weird. It's like Celsius to Fahrenheit. It's just really hard. Nobody really knows what the numbers are. You
Oh Jesus. But let's talk about Seoul because Seoul is another team that, man, I feel really bad for them. I really wanted Seoul to be that powerhouse that they were in the beginning, and I thought that maybe we're going through a slump, but they were going to come back strong. At this point, honestly, it almost seems like some of their players are giving up, and it breaks my heart a little bit to see Ryo Jae-hong, for example, a man that just looked like so unbeatable and so strong every time he came into the stage. Now he looks a little bit out of his element. I think last time we saw him on stage, he looks a little scruffy. He just doesn't look like that ominous Ryu Zhenghong that I remember. Um, he hasn't been the same without his Anna, and I think that
Exactly.
they've even let out a few statements here and there where they sound like they're losing a little hope on playoffs. They were very defeated, especially this week against London Spitfire after they lost 2-3. I think that Seoul sees them as one of their main rivals. They know that Excelsior is a little bit out of their reach, but London is the closest to that arch nemesis that they have right now. And I think this was their last chance to be able to get that win before playoffs. And at this point, it doesn't look like they're going to be making it to the playoffs. So I don't know, just in general, a very sad aura around the team right now.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
they're 0 and 4 this stage. Like, who would have ever thought the team I coined week 1 as the evil empire would actually fall this far? And I think it just goes back to you said Anna, and that's what made them good. Is that Jayhog was an amazing Anna, and I also think like Jayhog's older. Like a lot of people don't really think about this, but after you hit 25, you lose a lot. A lot of that hand-eye coordination is
it's younger
gone
than
just
that.
immediately. I mean, it's just and so I think I think him trying to switch back to tank was just kind of weird and it worked in shock value for like a second, but just not really good. And I think Ryu Jae Hong is headed to a coaching role.
I could see that happening. I mean, he's still a great player with a great game sense. It's a shame that the hero that he was known for just doesn't quite cut it in the league right now. And I know that a lot of people are not big fans of that personally because Anna is one of the supports with the highest skill cap, right? If you're able to play Anna like Ryo Jinghang is able to play Anna, you should be rewarded. And that's kind of like the argument that I've seen a lot going around on social media and other places. Um, to put that counterpart, like Widowmaker, for example, you see a lot of Widowmaker and in the Owl because one, she's one of the hardest skill cap heroes, but two, once you get the best players to be able to play her at the max level, she's going to be one of the most powerful heroes, which makes sense from a mechanical skill
She has
standpoint.
like she's hands down Overwatch League 2018 most powerful player MVP hero period.
And
Widow
she's yeah, in the
Widow
right hands, she
is
just brings too much power, right?
yeah, she is OP. On land
But
she is OP.
on the other hand, though, we have Anna, which it's supposed to be equally hard to play, right? Like you're aiming your shots. There's no heal like Mercy that you just put on a player and you hold it there. With Anna, you have to aim all of your heals. You have to be on the lookout for a lot of things. Landing your sleep darts on clutch targets can save a team fight on the spot or win that team fight right there. The grenades are also another tool that can swing a team fight and are a move that can counter a lot of plays in Overwatch. Which I don't know. It seems like a hero that has that much of a skill ceiling um, should be rewarded a little bit more. And I just think it's a shame that it is not right now, and that you can get a lot more bang for your buck out of heroes like Lucio and Mercy, and that's why they end up being run in the league. And Anna gets shoved to the side because she just can't keep up with the heroes like that. Um, so I don't know. That's kind of my 2 cents. I would like to see Anna come back a little bit more because I would love to see players like Rio Zhang thrive in the league. What do you think, DB?
Well, I think there's a lot of problems with the Seoul Dynasty, and most of them are in coaching and management for the most part, as far as I'm concerned. Because we saw them do a lot of. I compared it to like Russian roulette with their roster, where they just kind of keep like loading a couple barrels and not all of them, and spinning it and seeing what happens. And it would work for them sometimes. Like when they went to Jaehong on main tank, they got a couple wins that week, and it would have some success. But the other teams kind of found something that worked for them, at least the successful ones, and settled into it and learned it and really learned to perfect it. And these guys just kept switching, kept changing things up. So you have the rest of the league with their rosters kind of decided, their A team set and ready to go, all working together and all improving at the same rate. And now you see Seoul constantly shuffling, constantly making changes. And it's not like they're getting worse, but the rest of the league's getting better faster because of the consistency that their rosters have that Seoul never
Right.
really got to. So I think that's hurt them quite a bit. And I like what Bob said too. We don't think about esports players as getting old at 26, but Jaehong is 26 years old. The average esports career ends at, I think, 24 years old. He's on the wrong side of that bell curve. And it's not going to get better for him anytime soon. I would expect one more year of him playing, and then, but I think it might be best to go into maybe a coaching role with this
Now,
organization.
I will say here, and I'm gonna be devil's advocate, but in my opinion, I do think that your reflexes, your reaction time, they
hmm
decline over time. There's no
hmm
denying that. But I still think that the decline is much less than sometimes what people make it to be. And sometimes what people don't keep in mind is that you do gain some stuff with age in terms of experience, in terms of
Yep.
being able to play live. For example, you just have more experience under your belt, which makes you more suited for this environment. So I don't know if like the age factor has so much to do with it. I'm just gonna disagree here a little bit. Maybe he does have a little bit slower reaction time, but if he does, is like a tiny millisecond. Like this guy still hits the
Milliseconds matter.
clutches, right? But this guy's still hitting the clutches darts, and he has that incredible game sense that I don't know if like the age alone you can be like a factor you count into it. Like, don't discount the oldies, man. They
I
can
could
still do a
just
lot of work.
I could just
Hey,
tell you from
as
personal, if you would have seen me play in my early 20s as opposed to now, you would understand.
listen
Okay,
here,
but
young
is that
man, you don't tell us to respect our elders. As the resident junior, I believe here. Yeah, no. You're 100% correct. Now, the only counter I have to what you said is that look at the heroes Jaehong chooses to play. It's their flick based aim, their reaction based aim heroes. I wonder if we'd see the same level of sleep darts from him if he were to switch back over to it because of that reaction time. And these guys are pros. They're all, I mean, it's their full-time jobs now. That game sense, all that stuff, that's what's leveling in the playing field. So now it's these, when we're talking about the top 1% of players in the league, it's those milliseconds that actually
Yep, they add
separate
up.
you from the rest of the people at that very top level. Those little bits are definitely magnified. Now you're going to see main tanks in Overwatch League make it to 30 years old, stuff like that, because they're not aim based. They're just very team captain-y. You know what I mean? Like they're the driving
Right.
force for the team. But maybe not your Zenyatta's and your Ana players. You need to be Jonak with your ridiculous glasses to spot everything, every pixel ever. Like that's what those got to be for, right? They just make
They just
pixels so much
magnify
bigger so that
everything.
he can see everything, right? Like that's the only thing that makes sense. But yeah,
Well,
no,
but again, though, you're right. You're right. Like you want those milliseconds and stuff, but I think that he's still playing heroes that you can get away with a lot of things. He's still playing the support role, and you're right. Zenyatta's and Ana's do require you to have very high mechanics and very high reaction times. But it's not like he's competing in the spot with Fleta. You know what I mean? And it's not like there's another support that is coming in that is being like, dude, I can do a lot better than you. Like unless it's Jonak knocking at the door, I just don't see any like many other guys better than Jaehong.
when you're the only Korean-based franchise in the league, I think for the most part, you can get whoever you want from the Korean talent pool.
Okay, fair.
Yep.
You want to add anything here, Bob?
No, just that I feel for you, Jaehong. I feel for you.
And we don't want to make the whole discussion on Seoul Dynasty about Jaehong. He just kind of seems to be the face of the team. Obviously, there's a lot of other problems that the team needs to work on. If anything, Fleta seems to be the only consistent player in that team. He always seems to do a really great job. But there's a lot of problems with their main front line. We saw players like Miro, for example, kind of fall out of favor just because he tended to be a little bit too hectic for the team. He can do a lot of clutch kills, but he wasn't as much of as a team player as some of the other tanks in the league are, for example. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff that the team needs to work on. But like you said, Deathblow, they are the Korean franchise. So if anyone has a huge talent pool to choose from, is this team. I'm also sure that they have the finances and the resources to do it. So it's one of the teams that I expect to see revamped come season two, for sure.
Korean fans won't tolerate sixth place, even if they squeak in. That was not good enough for them.
No, absolutely not. Especially not against the Western teams. They're gonna cry wolf there.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys. I think that'll do it for today's episode. I think we covered most of the teams. We're running a little bit short on time over here, but thank you so much, Deathblow, for
You
coming in.
did.
We always love having your opinion.
You did forget the LA Valiant, who are 4-0 in this stage.
They're
You
average.
want to talk about LA Valley real
They
quick?
got it. They're an average team. We got it covered.
No,
They
I don't
did
care.
good. They did good this week, but I think it wasn't nothing like spectacular. The wins that they had this week, honestly, they won against Uprising, which again has been having a really hard time this season.
Skin of their teeth one.
And they won against Mayhem, which at this point, we kind of expected that one. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. We want to give huge thanks to our new Patreons. We actually have a new one coming in from Timothy Owen, joining us as a recap fan. We really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, helping us get to LA, get to New York, get those interviews. We want to be part of the scene. We want to get to know everyone who's over there. If you guys happen to be at the Overwatch stage finals, we will probably be there, more than likely. 100%. You want to say something, Bob?
Yes, just one thing I want to say. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting the Patreon. I'd like to point out that if you are a $2.50 Patreon, that's the price of a cup of coffee, not a latte, not a cafe mocha, not a caramel macchiato. It's the price of coffee. Just help. Give us a chance. Like give us a cup of coffee every week, and we will put out better content for you. We will get to more places. We will talk to more people. It will just open up doors. So I really plea to just give us Just give us a little bit. I mean, do it for 1 month. You don't have to do it for forever, but help us out a little bit.
Absolutely. If you guys like the content and you like the show, you like us as people, and you would like us to keep making the best thing that we can, that is the best way to do it. You can go to patreon.com/owl recap and do your pledge. We really appreciate it, and it helps us out a ton. All right, to wrap things up, you can find the show on Twitter at Owl Recap. You can also find it on Twitch, on our own Twitch channel nowadays, on twitch.tv/Owl Recap. We stream every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch the show live, see our faces, see how we look like, even chat with us live and ask us questions,
It's a
interact with us.
scary sight. Scary sight. I don't recommend it, but you can do it.
If you guys like fun, it's the place to go. Twitch is a very cool community. If you are not part of it, also you can join us on Discord over at discord.me/omniclab. We have a big community over there. We do game nights. We talk Overwatch. Anything you want to do over there and meet other like-minded people is the best place to do it, and also a good place to reach out to the hosts, ask us questions, and just get to know us personally. If you have any business inquiries, you can email the show at contact@owlrecap.com. And as always, leave us an iTunes review. If you like the show and you want to help us with our visibility and push us up a little bit more up the ladder of the iTunes podcasts, just leave us a little review. It warms our hearts. We love reading them. Finally, if you want to find us personally, you can do so over on Twitter. To find me, you can go over to I Play Games. You spell that IPLAI Games. And I'm going to pass it to my co host and guest to tell you where you can find them.
Why don't you go ahead, Deathblow?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at HNP Deathblow. We also record the High Noon podcast on Mondays before. It's usually around 7 p.m. So you can find us on twitch.tv/High Noon podcast.
That's 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find me on
Absolutely.
Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. Also, for this week for the Patreons, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central, I will be in chat to watch the Dallas Fuel take on the San Francisco Shock. You can listen to me either be happy or sad. Andreas, what game are you going to check out in chat this week?
Let me look up the schedule over here. You're catching me a little bit off guard over here.
Sorry, I just remember that was part of our Patreon, so we have to stick to it. I can tell you Mel
Absolutely.
will be in chat for Friday's game, the Outlaws versus the Shanghai Dragons.
Very cool. And I will probably be in game Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time for Houston versus New York Excelsior.
Wait.
That's not a match.
That's,
It's week 5, my friend.
but
looking
you
at
can
the wrong
totally
week?
do the same game as Mel, which is Houston versus Shanghai Dragons Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern
Sounds
Standard
good.
Time.
Let's do that. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining the show. As always, it's a pleasure hanging out with you. And see you guys next time.
Later, guys. All right, stop at my recording. We are still live on the stream. I'm going to raid somebody. Who should we raid, guys? Oh,
Who's on?
looks
What
like
audio format?
Wave, please. Or actually, Andreas doesn't mind. We're going to raid Jaw. Mash those buttons. So everybody, please stay in chat for the raid. Thank you so well. Do you have any questions, guys, before we do the raid? Anything?
I play what format you want? Wave?
Yes, that would be perfect.
All right, chat's pretty quiet. All right, guys.
Bye, chat.
Thank you for coming. Please stay in for the raid and tell Mash that we love him and tell Ja that Big Chocolate will never die. Oh, we got 11 raiders. Nice.
Raiders!
Rough Riders,
Raiders of
mount up.
Storm.
Was a clear black night, a clear blue moon. Dr. Dre Award G. Nope. Trying to consume. Just hit the east side on the LBC on a mission try to find Mr. Warren G. No, nothing. Bye, guys. And we're off.
I recognized the song, but I wasn't about to join you. You were on that ride by yourself.
All right. We are ending stream